Welcome to the second part of our journey in fabulous Costa Rica, where we explore more captivating habitats bursting with surprising and fascinating creatures. We're leaving Laguna del Lagarto and heading towards the Arenal Volcano. Our first stop is going to be the town of La Fortuna and its fantastic Bogarin Trail. We're enjoying lovely close sightings at the entrance feeders and are even able to ID some of the more familiar birds. But there are always some that prefer to stay more hidden, so we're going deeper into the forest to discover other shyer creatures. That clicking sound betrays the presence of a male white-collared manakin, a tiny bird with the ability to produce that astonishingly loud sound by cracking its wings together in display for the female. Naturally, this specific screech owl just wants to sleep, but it's always easy to hear when a woodpecker is around. Then we see an iconic mammal of Costa Rica, a three-toed sloth with her baby clinging to her belly as she progresses slowly around the tree. The baby will cling on for 5 to 9 months before it's weaned and its mother leaves. It takes about a month for a single leaf to pass through the sloth's 4-chambered digestive system. They've evolved to eat little, move slowly, and live in trees where they can just hang around. Not lazy, just beautifully adapted and delightful. We've had to really work for this bird, a black and white owl which we were told was around, but it's so high up when we eventually spot it. It's much easier to track this calling jacamar with its long, thin beak adapted to snap up flying insects. A couple of large wild Muscovy ducks, very different from mallards from which all other domesticated ducks are descended. We go farther towards the Arenal Volcano to spend the night at our hotel, Los Lagos. Next morning, we're driving through lush countryside to a higher elevation in the San Ramon area to search for an elusive, unusual bird that breeds here in the dry season. Our guide can hear its bell-like call, one of the loudest in the bird world, but it's distant. While we scramble around the misty slopes, there are more easily seen species about on the moss-covered trees. We stand around, peering hopefully into the mist from where the call is emanating. The best our binoculars can do is a brown shape, but the magic of Ben's lens reveals our target, a male 3-wattled bellbird calling for a mate. We continue in this beautiful hilly habitat, seeing other birds, while always hoping for the bellbird to come a little closer. I decide to give my neck a rest and look at the ground, where there is a fascinating long trail of leaf-cutter ants busily tracking to and fro from their nest. On the way back down, we all tumble eagerly out of the vehicle when this uncommon and spectacular ornate hawk eagle is spotted. After all that trekking around the mountain, we relax and enjoy some feeders beside our lunch spot. The black ear patch distinguishes the emerald tanager from all other green tanagers. The clay-coloured thrush looks huge beside it. This is our first look at a blue and gold tanager. Golden winged warbler, so well named and so tiny. Here's a better view of the boldly coloured tanager we saw higher up the mountain. Next morning at dawn, we've driven up to a lake at the foot of the volcano. Alex has heard a trogon calling, so we cross to the other side and find both male and female slaty-tailed trogon.
Hey guys, you heard?
The only plain-tailed trogon. Here's the male with bright orange bill. The female has a black upper mandible. An attractive wren sheltering from the wind. As usual, the top of the volcano is obscured by cloud as we travel to the Arenal Nature Reserve. Laughing falcon in its favourite habitat at the open edge of the forest, scanning for its preferred prey of snakes. The broad dark mask making a ring around the head is a distinctive field mark. Black Phoebe is a tyrant flycatcher that likes fast-flowing streams. The bright yellow black-headed toady flycatcher stays high in the canopy. On our way towards the Tapir Valley, we're admiring the lovely living fences that are so common here. Take a 2 to 3 metre cutting from an existing tree of a rapidly rooting species like quickstick, madre de cacao, or machete flower tree, poro. Stick it in the ground and it will grow thanks to the rich soil. The barbed wire is added immediately and the tree often grows around it. It takes a year for the tree to form and bloom. How envious our Australian farmers would be. Our first stop in the valley is the beautiful Bird Songs Garden. Ubiquitous rufous-tailed hummingbirds can be quite aggressive in maintaining their territory. Crafty capuchin monkeys raid the bird feeders and, with the largest brain-to-body ratio of any non-human primate, it's hard to stop them. Not a branch, but a great potu. The male graceful black-throated trogon has a blue orbital ring and green head. We overnight at Heliconius Lodge, where I almost bump into a mother and baby tapir in the dark. And next wet and windy morning, we explore the Tapir Valley Nature Reserve. Long-tailed tyrant, a very distinctive tyrant with 2 elongated central tail feathers. On a platform overlooking verbena bushes, we're targeting a special hummingbird. But first, Alex points out another new one. Blue-throated golden-tail. The larger bronze-tailed plume latia, and the tiny, exquisite violet-headed hummingbird with its cocktailed horizontal feeding posture. Then, excitement. The main target, Snowcap, is here. This tiny hummingbird is the smallest in Costa Rica and one of the most localised and difficult to see, although probably the easiest to identify, with its brilliant red wine colouring topped with a dazzling white cap. Snowcaps are sensitive to habitat quality and they require open areas adjacent to heavy forest cover. The secondary forests of Tapir Valley are a good place to see these little gems. A memorable sighting. Very glad of our rubber boots, we continue on the track. Great Kiskadee? Very similar, but boat-billed flycatcher has a wider and thicker beak. Another huge moment when we spot a tiny, rarely seen black-crested coquette, exquisite but insect-sized so easily overlooked, my favourite hummingbird of the trip. Great to sit down for a coffee after some magic moments, and always plenty to see. Previously we've seen coyotes only at ground level, but they're also skilled arboreal dwellers. The rain has brought out a poison dart frog. At the feeder is a collared Aracari. Its upper mandible has a saw-like pattern. The nearby yellow-throated toucan is the larger of the two Costa Rican toucans, which are nearly identical in behaviour and vocalizations. We're leaving the lush Tapir Valley and heading west into drier habitat on the Pacific coast. Before reaching our accommodation, we call into the salt pans to observe the birds coming into roost here. The huge flocks of various waders, which our US friends called shorebirds, are overwhelming. Identification is going to be a daunting task for us, as these are mostly from American flyways. Unlike our Australian migrants, we'll have to look very closely. Here's a new plover for us, with orange legs and a short black-tipped bill, and some peeps, as our companions refer to the various small sandpipers. Western sandpiper has a slightly drooping bill. We're working hard to disprove the despairing cry, all waders look alike, they're all black, white and brown, and are helped by some larger birds which we recognise as whimbrels and plovers. Surfbirds are new to us. While ruddy turnstones are old friends. It's a relief to see an easily identified solitary bird like this yellow-crowned night heron. In this small group of plovers, a black-bellied plover is lifting its wings, showing black underwings. A closer look at short-billed dowitcher with its long straight bill. Willets are taller with thicker bills. Here's another peep with yellow legs, least sandpiper. The tallest stilt sandpiper has a slightly down-curved bill with yellow-greenish legs when not covered in mud. Just as the flocks are settling, a peregrine falcon swoops in. World-renowned for their speed, grace and power, they feed primarily on birds in flight. We arrive to overnight at La Ensenada Lodge. At dawn, with plenty of birds calling, we go for a stroll to check out this new habitat. The flamboyantly plumaged turquoise-browed Motmot prefers drier forest edges and more open habitat. No other Motmot has such lengthy exposed shafts above the racket tips. What is this? Looking exactly like part of the tree until it moved, a northern tamandua is using its long curved claws and prehensile tail to demonstrate its amazing terrestrial ability. Don't be tempted to get too close. It can give off a smell worse than a skunk. Unlike many other trogons, the black-headed trogon favours dry forest and forest edges and can tolerate degraded habitat. Back to the lodge for breakfast. Then down to the glittering ocean while the heat has really ramped up. It's good to be under cover while we scan the mangroves, especially since we spot my bogey bird, common squirrel cuckoo. Still trying to hide. Mangrove yellow warbler is the resident yellow warbler of Costa Rica. Alex is pointing out some flying seabirds. Perched on the jetty below are royal and laughing terns. Then we turn to explore around trees on the hilly coastal slopes. And we're particularly pleased to see the large, spectacular and charismatic white-throated Magpie-Jay with its curled crest feathers, because it's our best chance before we leave their favoured habitat. They usually travel in noisy, gregarious flocks, with the dominant female being the main breeder. They're such an attractive bird with blue upperparts and long tail. It's 40 degrees Celsius now as we return to pack, and the howler monkey near our cabin is taking the more sensible option. On the road again, and we call in for a last look at the salt pans, now deserted of the feeding flocks. But the raptors still hang around this abundant feeding ground. Plus an aptly named head-bobbing solitary sandpiper. Identification is so much easier this morning. Black-necked stilt is known locally as soldetito, little soldier, because of its erect posture and alert behaviour. Yellow legs are the best identifier of this species. Pity about the mud. A flycatcher with an unusually small bill, northern scrub flycatcher. Then we drive south along the Pacific coast to arrive at our next hotel. Next morning, we pick up a guide with local knowledge and are soon waiting in anticipation by the side of a dusty road. We're amazed when a lesser ground cuckoo stalks out of cover and crosses the road with dignified stealth, those Cleopatra eyes. Wonderful views of a furtive and rarely seen bird which spends most of its time in the undergrowth. It prefers to walk away rather than fly. Looking around this dry habitat, it's easier to hear the birds than get a clear view, but we spot banded wren, a fine singer, dusky-capped flycatcher, and a couple of handsome sparrows. In between the twigs is another flycatcher, brown-crested. Farther along, beside a stream, we see another beautiful black-headed trogon. And moving into a more humid patch, one of the largest of the numerous woodcreeper family, northern barred woodcreeper, another flycatcher on a handy open perch. Then, as we're back into open country, we're excited to see large parrots overhead and landing on some fruit trees. At last, we have great views of a bird that is perhaps the most closely associated with Costa Rica, the stunning Scarlet Macaw, the rainbow bird. Scarlet macaws are huge birds with the longest tails of all macaws. They're very long-lived, reaching 40 to 50 years in the wild, very intelligent and mate for life. They prefer to feed high in the canopy and rarely come down to ground level. Their beaks are strong enough to crack open a coconut. We're thrilled, and Alex has to drag us away to show us where they nest in a hollow palm.
Okay.
The crew are ready, but no show this time. We drive to the Tarcoles River and across the famous Crocodile Bridge, where you can lean over and see American crocs basking on the banks. As Aussies, we're not so interested in the crocs, but there are plenty of birds to be seen by boat on this river. Those bright yellow feet are unmistakable. Willets are large stocky waders with long legs and a thick straight bill. And of course, an American crocodile. The bare yellow skin on its throat IDs this tiger heron. A male Amazon kingfisher with rufous throat. Here's the little soldier again. And spotted sandpiper in non-breeding. In 2023 we saw it in breeding plumage. A raptor, yellow-headed caracara. Round the bend is a fascinating demonstration of evolution. A group of waterbirds all happily feeding in the same space. 3 bird families, 3 beautifully adapted bills, and 3 different methods of extracting their food from the water. The sweeping spoonbill, the probing ibis, and the stabbing egret. And even a sideswipe specialist, tricoloured heron. There are plenty of raptors around. And in the distance we can see the mountains. The largest heron in Costa Rica, common near the shores of open water and in wetlands over most of North and Central America, as well as Northwest and South America. It can occur in almost any wetland habitat. Anhinga in its usual wing-drying position. A closer look at the fierce beak of common black hawk. This small, solid black beak identifies Wilson's plover. In the mangroves is a diminutive and brilliantly coloured American pygmy kingfisher. A great bird with which to finish a truly enjoyable boat trip. Pura vida, broadly meaning natural life, is the motto of Costa Rica. By the riverside is another wood creeper, a family that is strikingly like our Australian tree creepers. And the very cute diurnal and now familiar ferruginous pygmy owl. While we pack our vehicle next morning to leave, we get a closer look at Red Lord Amazon, a parrot that likes semi-open areas with some big trees, and this area is right beside a major highway, which doesn't seem to bother it. Nor does it bother a Scarlet Macaw, a blaze of colour, which briefly perches above us. We pick up our local guide again and head to some rainforest, where he shows us the nest of a collared forest falcon, a widespread but secretive bird which hides in the canopy and is not often seen. We're delighted when this beautiful falcon emerges from its nest and perches above it. Farther along the track, we see some other difficult birds which are usually hidden in the understory. Near the ant shrikes are long-tailed manakins. We didn't manage a film this time, but we had seen them during our 2023 trip. The same female trogon, but what a difference the angle makes. Perched in the understory is the plump, largely insectivorous puffbird. Good views of a pair of slaty-tailed trogons which have been calling for a while. We cross the river to where another trogon is calling. Baird's trogon. The male's orange belly and entirely white undertail are a unique combination, a new trogon for us. We leave the close humidity of the rainforest to drive farther up the mountain. There's another nest hole, originally made by a woodpecker, and we're warned to pay close attention. That's certainly not the beak of a woodpecker. It's the spectacular fiery-billed Aracari, the second and even more colourful of Costa Rica's two Aracari species. The second half of its huge beak is scarlet. Then we head away from the Pacific coast towards the mountains for the final leg of our trip with tropical birding. But in 2023, we were able to continue down the west coast by ship to explore further. The Kuru Wildlife Refuge is part of the conservation area of tropical dry forests on the southern Nicoya Peninsula. White-tailed deer is the national animal of Costa Rica. There are two raccoon species in Costa Rica. This is the common raccoon, native to North America, but highly adaptable and intelligent. Turquoise-browed Motmot again, with its long racket tail. Capuchin monkeys are highly intelligent and use complex foraging skills. A spectacular Scarlet Macaw, feeding in its favoured treetop position, also known to photographers as the neck breaker. Back to the ship. Our next landfall will be at Corcovado National Park, the largest in Costa Rica, extending over about a third of the Osar Peninsula, comprising the largest primary forest on the American Pacific coastline. A female spider monkey, agile and intelligent, spider monkeys are the supreme acrobats of the rainforest, with their long, strong, prehensile tails acting as a fifth limb and their thumbless hands as hooks, while they swing rapidly over large areas of the forest, looking for fruiting trees. The larger of the two Costa Rican toucans, the huge bill is incredibly light, made of spongy foam-like keratin, the same material as our fingernails. We're fascinated by the variety of handsome sparrow species in Costa Rica. Our last landing before we cross into Panama is Golfo Dulce. These raptors are happy to scavenge together. Velvety black and brilliant crimson, the male scarlet-rumped tanager is unmistakable. As usual in this family, the female is far more subdued, though still a very attractive bird. A great view of a perching American white ibis. A common but shy and wary white-tipped dove. Back to the ship again. We're now in Panamanian waters and landing on Coiba Island. Once a penal colony, access to the island was historically limited, allowing much of the area's natural resources to remain untouched. Seabirds in breeding plumage are so much easier to identify. We've previously seen this bird only as an uncommon vagrant to Australia. Breeding plumage, now its name fits. We're watching a small, agile rodent with immensely strong teeth. An unusual X-shaped pattern on the male's face identifies this bird. This tanager's range is localised, but it's easily identified by its white lower mandible. The court is in session as the bench lines up with judge-like black vultures. And there are plenty more raptors about. The yellow-headed caracara is a resident common from Panama to Uruguay. In the past few years, however, it has been migrating ever northwards, even crossing into the US. A remarkably diverse diet, if it fits in its beak its food, may see this trend continue. To the ship again. In the Gulf of Panama, we visit one of the Pearl Islands and find some pelagic species. Brown boobies are gaping in the intense heat to encourage rapid respiration and cool down. The night herons seem to be coping best. There's no shade. We're very lucky to see this blue-footed booby, which is mainly seen flying out at sea. We've arrived in Panama City, admiring the skyline, which shows off the incredible skyscrapers of the new city. and were enjoying a boat trip over Lake Gatun, which was enhanced by the watersheds of 21 rivers when the canal was cut through, but which also brought an unfortunate infestation of apple snails. Snail kites used to migrate through Panama, but are now resident, with a permanent supply of snails available. On the shore, a white-faced capuchin monkey approaches warily to collect a piece of fruit, then turns quickly back to shelter. House wren, conspicuous only when perched and singing. What a treat to watch this three-toed sloth as it moves ponderously around its tree. The whole world of living things in its fur must be a perpetual irritant. Sloths seem to be almost constantly scratching. Male three-toed sloths develop this patch of bare skin on their back upon sexual maturity. No one seems to know exactly why, but it may be connected to sexual selection. Next morning, we're progressing through the Panama Canal from the Pacific into the Caribbean, an astounding feat of engineering which cost thousands of lives to build. Labourers came from all over the Americas and even Europe to work in appalling conditions for the benefit of immense improvements in global trade. Even here there are birds to look at. Here's a nesting pair of fork-tailed flycatchers. Wow, what a tail. We disembark in Colombia at the old port city of Cartagena, and next morning we take a quick trip with a bird of friend to look around the botanical gardens. The roaring is coming from a troop of howler monkeys, the loudest animal on earth. This one seems afraid someone will steal his luscious prize. Back in the city square, there's a small park with some trees where we're astonished to find a small family group of tiny, critically endangered monkeys, cotton-top tamarins. With only 6,000 left in the wild, the fact that they are adaptable with habitat, nearly always give birth to non-identical twins, and live in a family group to help care for young, may yet help to save them from extinction. If you've enjoyed travelling with us, look out for the third and final part of our Costa Rican trip, when we search for a bird that has been called the most beautiful on earth.